folks. Okay, what we're going to do now is we're going to get down to the crux of this, you know, and what we, before the break, what we've been talking about is the different mindsets and the characteristics of these different mindsets. So what we really need to look at now is the missing link, and that is what the Course calls the Holy Spirit. The Course also calls it true right-mindedness. Okay, it's correct thinking. So what this is, it's a mindset. Okay? Now, what forgiveness does, and this is important to understand what forgiveness does, forgiveness gets you into that level. Alright? Forgiveness really means detachment. And what you're detaching from is either a thought about the body, a thought about the world, or a thought about either of these two minds. So it's very, very important to understand forgiveness means detachment. And when you're detaching from this level, it brings you into this level. Okay? So remember, these are two mindsets. So what is a mindset? You have a mindset if you're going to have a very important meeting. You'll have a mindset for it. If you're meeting friends, you'll have a mindset for that. Okay, if you're out for a good bit of fun in the evening time, you'll have a mindset to have fun. You won't sit there discussing all your problems and be trying to have fun, will you? No, you'll keep that to the side and you'll say, this is my mindset for today. And we'll have a mindset for the morning when we wake up. We have a mindset for our work in the morning. We have a mindset for our afternoon. We have a mindset for how we feel in the evenings. So we have all of these mindsets. But the problem with all our mindsets is they're all occurring at this level. And we're always trying to find a mindset where we're content. Like Jesus says in his parable. Okay? The Son of God, the Son of Man has no place to rest his head. The birds in the air, foxes in their dens. But the Son of Man has no place to rest his head. And what he means is, we are continuously tuned in to thinking 24/7. Even in our dreams, the ego talks to us. Okay? And we have no respite from this because here's the past, here's the future. Okay? There's no rest in this mindset. There's no present moment here. This mind was made to keep peace out, to keep joy out, to keep love out. So you can see very clearly here, as long as you're trying to attain, to seek, to do, to plan on this level, then you're going to be stuck in this level. And this is why there's so many people stuck. And I seen in that video, there's so many people leaving A Course in Miracles now, and they're going to Mooji and other philosophies, and that's a big mistake. Because they don't have the answer. Mooji can be, but he can't do. Eckhart Tolle can be, but he can't do. This is the mind of doing.
What about Byron Katie?
Byron Katie does.
Yeah.
Okay. So what is this mindset? So here is the mind, and when you're tuned into it, your primary thought is separation. Yeah? It's the mind of self-interest. I must preserve at all times what's good for me. Yeah? Here, the mindset now, the energy is oneness. It's not about me anymore. It's about we. So that's the two primary energies, the two main differences here. So here, it's always about what's good for me. But now up here, it's about, is this good for me? And if it's good for me, is it good for everybody? Because if this is good for everybody, then it's good for me. At this level, it's about what's good for me and fuck everybody else at the end of the day. I'm sorry for being crude in that, but that's what it really comes down to. It's self-interest. That's the two different mindsets here. So, what I've been able to come up with is this. Everybody, and I think Amy Torrey said in that video too, that she has spent all her time in the Course on doing and detaching. Okay? And she hasn't got anywhere. And I can understand that. And I can understand why a lot of people are leaving the Course. A lot of people are stuck in the course. I have been doing the online classes with people. One woman was completely stuck for 35 years. She was intellectualizing everything to do with the course. She spent 35 years in her persona doing the course. And within 18 months, she's moved to level 2 and remained there. All she had to do was just get the right information, the right guidance to get to the right place. Because she had been fallen into the trap of the persona, the cunningness, and the deviousness. So,
Michael.
just a second.
Sorry.
There's basically 10 characteristics of this mindset. Okay?
Of the
And
level 1?
Level 2. Okay? The Holy Spirit, you can call this the mind of the Holy Spirit. Okay? So with this, you can call it a checklist. You can say, right, here's the situation, and here's how I'm going to perceive that situation. Because when I get to level 2, this is how I'm going to perceive all situations. So the way you train yourself now for this level 2 mindset is you start using it in your relationships and in any current situations that you're involved with, be the conflict, even conflict with yourself. And this mindset will show you very clearly what you're doing, what you're not doing, and what you need to do. So the first one is this responsibility. Now, the great confusion between most people, and I think, Peter, this is where you're coming from, is between this mindset and this mindset. Between the ego right mind and the true right mind. Okay? Now here's a way that you can see which one that you're doing. Because I have found out what the persona will not and cannot do, and I have found out what the true mind will do. So the first one is this responsibility. So responsibility here always entails blame. If I said to you now, Peter, you have to take responsibility for that. What's your automatic response to that?
I accept responsibility.
It's my fault. You see, to the ego, responsibility means blame. You can blame yourself, you can blame your body, you can blame your gender. It's because I'm a woman. It's because I'm blonde, or I'm black, or I'm Indian, or I'm this. Okay, but to the ego, responsibility means blame. To this mind, responsibility means something different.
Means what?
It means something different.
Yeah.
What does it mean? At this level, what are you taking full responsibility for?
Your projection.
Your reactions. Because it's only what you react to that is what you're attached to. So I could look at something and Peter could look at something. I could react, Peter might not react. Why? In one position I have projected. Reaction tells you you have projected. And you're always projecting what you denied. And what we're denying is our own self-hate. So responsibility on level 2 is I am responsible for everything that I see, react to I hear, to I feel, to I taste. You don't need to understand why at this moment in time you're responsible. All you need to do is be willing to take that responsibility. And if you can do that, the persona cannot do that. The ego cannot do that. Because that goes against the very ego thought system. So, when you take responsibility, remember one of the characteristics, Cora, of the persona was rationalization. Right? See, this mindset now that I'm giving you, this new mindset I'm giving you, wipes out the persona's mindset. Because when you take complete responsibility for your reactions, now you don't rationalize. Also, you're not a victim, because there's no blame. See? You see, level 2, this mind is the correction for level 1. And because now that you're correcting the persona, what else are you correcting?
Shadow.
Cause and effect. Because if there's no now victim, there's no
Victimizer.
Victimizer. You see how it works? Cause and effect work perfectly through the whole two levels, level 1, level 2.
Love and forgiveness.
Huh?
Love and forgiveness.
And that's just responsibility. And that's what forgiveness is. Forgiveness is basically taking responsibility, but without blame. So the second one is this acceptance. All right? Now, acceptance on level 1 with the persona always entails, I have no choice. I have to do this. People come to me on the online classes and they come and they go, I have to fucking do this because I have no choice now. Do you know? And that's, you know, it's brought them to that decision, but it's really, you know, the persona making that decision. You know, what else are they saying? I'm a victim. You know, I've tried everything else. I'm stuck. I'm a victim. Do you know? So you can see now the persona traits coming out. But in acceptance, true acceptance is you're accepting, as it says in lesson 190, that there's nothing external to me that's the problem. It's not the banks. It's not my next door neighbor. It's not the shadow. All right? The problem is inside me. Again, now you're not projecting. Okay? You're not rationalizing. And you're not playing the victim. Yeah? So you can go through, if you have a situation, you're looking at this, am I taking responsibility in this situation? Have I created this problem? Am I accepting that this is not the problem? See, this is the thinking of the Holy Spirit. This is the thinking of level 2. So let's look at number 3. Discernment, the most important of all. Discernment on level 1 is always between right and wrong and good and bad. Isn't that right? And everything in between. That's the ego's form of discernment. Discernment on level 2 is always between what's true and what's false. What's real, what's unreal. What's truth, what's illusion. And this is Byron Katie. She teaches level 2 discernment. Isn't that right, Cora? She gets the person she never gets the person to look at right or wrong or good or bad. She masterfully, she's a master at it. She brings the person out of the pain body, up into here, and she gets them to look at the truth. And the way she does it is bloody amazing. And that's what this world needs. No, not more Moojis, not more Eckhart Tolles. And I'm not saying that you know, to disparage them or anything else, but we need more level 2 teachers. But Byron is only teaching one element out of 10. There's 10 in this. Do you know? So that's only one, discernment. So when you can look at a situation and you can look at what's true in that situation and what's false. But not only that, when you get up to here, you're going to look at the world, and you're going to look at the world and you're going to see what's true and what's false. So what's true in the world? Love. Love. That's
Maybe not even true here.
There's unbelievable love in this world happening all around you all the time, and it's unconscious love. You know, the conscious love you see all around you, that's the persona. The unconscious love that you see all around. I mean, last year I traveled
That's
a
not
lot.
part of the world.
Last year I traveled a lot, and I seen so many people unconsciously helping so many people, you know, through airports, you know, would you like this, that, you know, and it's just, there's so much love in this world. You know, what's not true is the hate in this world. So, if you're only sitting there looking now at the world through what's true and false, where are you sitting? Where are you sitting? Level 2. And this is where everybody needs to be at. And this is how simple it is. Just to look at any problem with truth and reality. Look at your past. What's the only truth that's been in your past? The only thing that's true in your past is the love. The only way you're going to let go of everything else is to look at what was false and call it false.
Michael, that doesn't stop the pain, does it? It's just the feeling, like, you can be looking at it thinking, and like, you know, on some level, this is an illusion.
Where's the pain coming from?
Within, somewhere. Yeah.
Why? Let's
Uh,
be practical. The pain is coming because you're on level 1. Full stop. It's not, forget about the stories of what you did to God or God did to you or what you did to your neighbor or what your father did to you or mother did to you or whatever. That's all bullshit. That's all there to distract. The truth of the matter here is all of those stories all exist on level 1. You can be in the world but not of the world. And what that means is you're in the world in the body, you're not of the world of this mind, you're of the world of this mind or this mind. Now, it does stop the pain because the characteristics of this mind is peace, a peace so deep that when you experience it, you'll want more and more of it. So the effects of what you do now is going to be peace. It's not going to become from you just saying these words. It'll become from you practicing this and practicing. Because remember, the persona will try to do this. It'll intellectualize this. Have you ever heard tell of intellectual forgiveness, Peter? It's where you just say the words. You know, and everybody that I've been working with in the online classes, when they started doing this, they were intellectualizing forgiveness. But then they had to become aware of what they were intellectualizing at first to realize they weren't meaning this. Jesus says, of course, to say these words means nothing, but to mean these words says everything. So we have to say it with our heart, not up here.
Can we call on the Holy Spirit to help you do this?
Well,
all the time.
But listen, the Holy Spirit does not come in here. So to call in the Holy Spirit means you're unwilling to do this. Now, I'm giving you the Holy Spirit's mindset. Now, when Jesus says to give it to the Holy Spirit, he's talking about you going there. And that means you take it responsibility. You accept that the problem is not external to you. Getting you to look at the truth or illusion, not between what's right and wrong. So the very fact that you're doing this now, you are the Holy Spirit. The very fact that you're able to look at something and take full responsibility, you literally are the Holy Spirit because you're in the Holy Spirit's mind. Okay? And then when you reach to this level, you literally become the advanced teacher of God. When you reach this level, you literally become Christ. So you don't lose your awareness through this. You see, when you're here perfectly in here, you're also here. X marks the spot. But you're only there a small piece of the time. You know, most of the time we're all in here. So discernment is about now not looking at right and wrong and choosing between right and wrong or good and bad. If you look at any situation, look at the news, test yourself on this. How attached we are to looking at everybody and everything is right and wrong. So we have to transcend that. And to transcend it means, I must say, remember what Jesus says in the Course, the only difference between me and you is that I said no to the ego. Okay? Well, that's what he's talking about. He never looks at right or wrong or good or bad. And everybody in the world is trying to be so good for God. And the way to be so good for God is to basically reject everybody that's so bad. The biggest problem with spirituality in the world today is full of spiritual people. You know? That's not spirituality. The problem with spirituality in the day is it's all personified. It's all these special people, and if you're not wearing the right clothes, or if you're not reading the right book with the right group, okay, you're in the shadow. You're wrong. You know, and that's what I mean about the problem with spirituality. It's all personified specialness. A true spiritual person in this world will be one with the most despicable things in this world. You can think it, then it's a part of you. If you really want to be one with God, you must be one with every part of this world, no matter how horrible it is, how horrible you think it is. You see, because up here, you reinterpret everything in the world. And this is what this mindset does. This is the beginning of you reinterpreting everything you see in this world, because as long as you're here, you're seeing everything in the world through this mindset. It's like you're putting on a pair of glasses, and it doesn't matter. And you see, the other funny thing is, Jesus says, of course, there's no neutral thoughts. And what I find when I'm speaking to people is, especially spiritual people, is they have a lot of people in the good room, but they have absolutely nobody in the fucking bad room. Where have them? You know? There's no neutral thoughts. And if you have 100 people here, you must balance the equation. There has to be 100 people here. This has to be balanced. There's no way you cannot balance this. So let's move on to number 4. Number 4 is forgiveness. It's detachment. Okay? So that means when you're in this level here, all right, there's one thing that's going to keep bringing you down here every time. And it's our attachments. Okay, you could be attached to thoughts about the body. You could be attached to thoughts about the world and people in the world. Okay, these are all attachments. You could be attached to thoughts, good thoughts, bad thoughts. Right thoughts, wrong thoughts. You can be attached to all of them. So, what's going to happen is this. You're going to be here, and all of a sudden, you're going to react to something, you're going to come down here. You're going to see this as really good now. The ego see this as bad. You fucked up, you made a mistake. The ego wants you to feel guilty, wants you into the bad room. But you're going to say, no, this is good, because it's my attachments that's keeping me coming back to be born into a body lifetime after lifetime. It's my attachments that's keeping my peace away, that's keeping my joy away, that's keeping my love away. Why then would it not be a good thing when you discover an attachment? Reinterpret the meaning of things going wrong to things are now going right. You know, if you're having a sense of dying over this, a sense of death over this, then you're probably not doing this the right way. Because there's the old you, the old way of thinking, the old persona you. You see, the persona is a big part of us. And when you start to let it go, it's like a death. You literally will feel. Because it's the persona that is attached to everything.
So, yeah, I see how forgiveness and attachment are the same, and I was just wondering about, I think this might come into acceptance as well. Acceptance, the level 1 acceptance is like passive aggressiveness, isn't it? Where you say, oh,
yeah,
this
that's
is,
exactly what it is.
Yeah. So, for instance, if I've got, if I think, in a situation at work or something, if I think that somebody has treated me unfairly, and I say nothing about it, that's not true acceptance, that's passive aggression.
First thing that you do,
Yeah, sure, yeah.
first thing that you do is reach for that checklist and go through them one by one.
Yeah.
And by the time you've gone through them, you'll have them done, and you'll see exactly what you did and what you didn't do.
I understand that, but what I'm asking is, if I have a situation where I feel that somebody has been unfair to me or something, I'm wondering if the best thing to do is to actually say it to them and get it out there. And
Right, listen,
so that
Mary,
What?
just for a second, right? If somebody has unfairly treated you badly, what do you say? I'm a victim, you're here. So wait, you don't understand that.
I do.
You don't,
Go
because you're trying to stay a victim, but have a word with them to make sure that you're going to confirm now that you are a victim. Instead of you saying, right, hold on a minute, I believe something here. I'm annoyed about something. I need to go to this checklist. Right, am I taking complete responsibility? No. Am I accepting? No. What's the truth here? I'm playing a victim. I mean, come on, this is why this checklist is so important now, because you can sit there and answer your own questions. So if you had stopped and just, instead of asking me that question, went to that list, you would have answered your own question, because this formula gives you the power to be your own guru. You don't need anybody after this, because if you do this correctly, this can answer every question that you need now. If you want to hear what it's like to be awake, or what it's like to be Christ, or wonder about these things, then that's fine. But get your head out of the clouds, literally, and focus here. This formula will give you the answers to everything down here. Not just some things, everything. So let's keep going. Number 4. Is it number 4, Ron?
5.
5.
5. All 4 was forgiveness. 5 now is the practice of unconditionality. Because down here, everything is conditional. Your relationships, the relationship with yourself, even your own body, is completely conditional. Okay? You can't be on level 2 and retain conditional love, conditional relationships. You must begin the practice of it. Because if you're in a relationship with someone and that person is, let's say, giving you problems, okay, then what you're doing is you're coming from the special relationship and you're trying to deal it here. This is the special love, this is the special hate. Here is the holy relationship. And love is unconditional. Okay, so you're practicing unconditionality here because when you wake up here, everything is unconditional. Because it's a must. At number 3, at this level here, if you make something or anything a condition, you're going all the way down to here. And that would be really insane.
Does that mean love, unconditionality? Does it mean love?
Unconditionality must be practiced in your relationships because it's in your relationships you're going to use this. So that means in your relationships, in my book I was talking about the 4 characteristics of the special relationship. And that means demands, expectations, needs, and desires. They must all be relinquished from our relationships to make them unconditional. And that's a practice that must begin. Remember, this mind is only preparing you for this mind. This mind prepares you for this mind. This mind prepares you for this mind. So, let's look honestly. You know,
demands, expectations,
needs and desires. So all of these minds are some preparation for the next one. So if you can't have one unconditional relationship, you're really saying, I'm not ready to wake up. And that's okay. So that's why this mindset is the preparation for this mindset. So it's the practice of this. So we move to number 6. And number 6 is the practice of non-attachment. Now this is the key for doing in the work. Eckhart Tolle kind of, in The Power of Now, alluded to it briefly, where he says, you don't be concerned with the fruits of your labor. In other words, this non-attachment means non-judgment. Let's look at the 3 levels. Judgment, non-judgment, without judgment. So, to prepare us to live our lives to be without judgment, doesn't it make sense that now we practice non-judgment? Because you can't go from judgment to without judgment. Okay? So non-judgment means that you're not looking at right and wrong and good and bad of everything that's going on. That you're not invested. You're not doing things with the ego. When you're doing things with the ego, you're giving energy to the ego. You're creating pain and sickness for yourself. When you're doing things with God on level 2, you're doing them basically without an investment. Okay? So that means maybe you want to teach the course and you want to go and do a talk. Well, you're not concerned how many people turn up, or you're not concerned about if people listen to you or don't listen to you. You're doing it unconditionally. And that's why I was able to teach you, Mary. Because if I was doing this with conditions, I would have you shot long ago. But you have been nothing but a great help for me. And for many other people, because Mary asks questions. And she has been consistently asking questions. And the amount of people who wrote to me in emails thanking me, or thanking Mary, because she seemed to ask the question that was just right for so many people at that time. Because so many of us think we can't answer that, that's stupid. You know, so you can hear, you know, the persona wants to answer a question, and then the sabotager, the shadow, don't be silly, that's stupid.
I think part of the problem with the course is what you said earlier, all the levels, and when you're saying in the book that Jesus is talking about you, and there are 5, you know, there are so many possible yous at the different levels that it's difficult to discern. And I think that's also, it used to puzzle me greatly over the years. We'd be doing a section of the course and it would be completely mystified, and I think we did that before, and I thought I was following it, and now, a year later or whatever it is, and I haven't got a clue. And that's obviously why, because of all the levels.
Yeah, you can see Therese, can you see to the different thinking? It's hard to get your head around this type of thinking, isn't it?
Yes, and some of these I find are easier. I shouldn't say easier, but you know what I mean, Michael? Like say, for instance, when you said about non-attachment or whatever, I can get that easier than, obviously the way the ego is playing out. I'm saying the discernment one immediately seems much more challenging.
Yeah. And have you seen Byron Katie?
I have, but not recently.
Right.
Yes.
Well, look a wee bit at Byron Katie and she'll show you how it works. She gets the person to look, and you can see how the person, it takes them a little while to get their head around it. And then when they do get their head around it, she keeps bringing more and more and more. And they're looking from this part now and they can see more truths. And they couldn't see any at this level. So the discernment one, Byron Katie will basically be a great teacher at that level. So non-attachment.
You said that Byron Katie only deals with one of the 9. Is that the victimizer?
No, the discernment. She teaches discernment.
No, the question was that you said that there are 9 levels in the persona and shadow.
9 elements, or 9 compartments, yeah.
And what I heard you say, maybe I was incorrect, was that Byron Katie is only dealing with one of those.
Well, no, what she's doing is she's dealing with one of the 10 on level 2, which is discernment. She's teaching true discernment.
Okay.
The ego's discernment is always between right and wrong, good and bad. So non-attachment is about if you're reacting to something that you're doing, then you're attached to what you're doing. You're doing it with the ego.
How does the practice of unconditionality differ from the practice of non-attachment or non-attachment?
Because when it's about, no. Unconditionality is in your relationships. Oh. Attachment is about what you're doing.
Right.
So, let's say you're going to organise a talk for someone, or do this or do that, and all of a sudden you ring up, this happens, and you react straight away to something that's gone wrong. That reaction will tell you straight away, I'm doing this with the son. You're doing this with investment. You're doing it conditionally. You're doing it with the ego. You're feeding the ego.
So it's the same thing, except the unconditionality refers to other people, and
attachment is about what you do. Everything you do on level 1, you're doing it, you're attached to it. And your attachment to it, I want this to be a success. I want this to be really well. And the reason why you want all of that is because that embellishes the persona, the reputation, the false self of who we are. So you can see in all of this, we do everything, we're invested in everything we do. There's nothing that we don't do that's not invested. The problem is you're investing in the ego. You're investing in sickness and in death. Okay? Because that's what's the end of this. Okay? So then the next one then is non-attachment. Is basically true empathy. Is number 7.
True empathy.
Now, empathy at this level is always about joining with the other person in pain. You're joining in suffering. In other words, pity. Alright? The ego doesn't want you joining with anybody, but it loves it when you join in sin, in guilt, or in suffering of any kind. So that means when you walk into a hospital or whatever and you look upon someone and all you see is the sickness in the body and everything, and you feel sorry for that poor crap. Now all you're doing is pulling into the ego, and you're filling up the ego with your energy. All pity and compassion at this level goes straight to the ego. And because you're joining with this person in suffering, in sin, or sickness, all right, now you're going to feel that. You're going to come out of there and you're going to feel absolutely horrible. Why? Because this is what you've asked for. True empathy is level 2. This is where you join, you refuse, you say, no, that is not a body. That is spirit. There is no death. There is no sickness. What you're doing now is you're transcending the thoughts that the ego is giving you at this level, and you're looking at the truth of who we are. Jesus says this throughout the whole course, that we're eternal, that we're spiritual beings. There's so many attributes, and I'm not going to go into them of who we are, because that's not going to help you at this level. What's going to help you at this level is you start to deal with problems yourself, and that will basically get you to tune into this mindset. So empathy is a way, especially false empathy, is a way that the ego gets fed over and over again. Now, the other thing I'll say about this, and it's about teachers of the course, okay? There's teachers of the course out there, and they're teaching false empathy every day on Facebook. Every single day. They're sending sympathy here, they're sending sympathy there, and these are well-established teachers of the course. They're not teachers of God. They're not teaching what the Holy Spirit teaches. They're teaching the ego.
Because they're buying into...
Yes, and they're getting all the students to follow suit with them. You know, let's all sympathize with this great tragedy in the world. That's exactly what the course is teaching against. You know, wake up, teachers of the Course in Miracles. You're teaching your own course. You're not teaching what the course is. Every teacher of the Course in Miracles is teaching their own course. That's their interpretation. There's very few people teaching what the course teaches. Okay? And what the course teaches is true empathy, not false empathy. So again, a teacher of A Course in Miracles who's teaching this is teaching here. They're an ego teacher. They're not teaching the Holy Spirit. They're not teaching truth. Okay? So number 8, and again, for a lot of you should know this one, it's complete forgiveness. Now, complete forgiveness, it deals with the pain body.
Sorry?
It deals with the pain body. What it does is complete forgiveness now, on level 1, we use here to keep ourselves sane and fit and able to operate, we must use a number of the ego's coping mechanisms. And those coping mechanisms are basically passive-aggressive, displacement, projection, sublimation, and you can go on and on. All right? So, the whole point of this is you can't let them go. You must now use a different coping mechanism. And the one coping mechanism that wipes out all of those coping mechanisms is complete forgiveness. There's a video on it on YouTube, Peter, if you want to have a look at it, Trace. You know, on complete forgiveness. Yeah. And
That's
it's
a brilliant
really...
video.
Huh?
I think that's one of the best
Yeah,
videos.
because it really does, you know, it's a level 2 kind of coping mechanism that you'll need to use to stay on level 2. You see, getting to level 2 is the easy part. Staying there is the hard part. Okay, so complete forgiveness is it's a very potent tool, like, you know. It really does avoid that intellectual part of it where the ego is the master.
How do you know when you have done complete
You
forgiveness?
will feel peace,
Oh, of course.
a lightness. Up here, this energy, it's about not only getting here, it's about staying here. So you're not going to stay here consistently to all 10 of those. You're able to tick, 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 all 10 of those, because all 10 of those nullify the persona. Once you nullify the persona, you take the shadow out of the equation. So you can see cause and effect at work. Okay? So complete forgiveness. Then number 9 is self-empowerment. Again, there's a video on self-empowerment if you wanted to look at that, Peter. And self-empowerment really is this. Remember I said earlier on at this level, where's your thoughts? There is none. And this is what people find so hard to believe. Where's my thoughts? And I'm saying, you know, when they say, I think this, and I go, who's thinking? Me! And I go, but who's me? Me! You know, and people just, you know, they think, but it's my thoughts. They're not your thoughts. They're coming from the ego in these thoughts. So, you know, you have to wake up to that realization.
So it's thoughts on you, not the other way around.
Yeah. And Byron Katie says, at this level, there's 2 things people are doing with thoughts. They're inquiring with thoughts and they're attaching to thoughts. But there's another one she has forgotten about. And it's people are denying thoughts. And what you deny, you project. What you project, you react to. And now what you react to, you detach from.
To resist, you persist.
Exactly. So you can see how this works. So self-empowerment really asks the question, Let's say you get into an argument with Therese, right? And you go away, and you kind of think, all right, I need to sort this out. So self-empowerment is the tool to deal with this. This is the answer to the special relationship. Okay? So there's a number of steps in self-empowerment. You go through those steps, and one of the first one is self-awareness. So you ask yourself this question: who was I? Because that's the last question the ego wants you to ask. Because the ego is all about you are you. There's no ego. So the moment you question who is angry, okay, you move to here. That's very, very, very important tool for relationships, because it gets you to question, who am I?
Yeah. You should have one that says, who's asking the question?
That's it. That's it. So self-empowerment. And then we come to number 10, which is probably the most important out of them all. But it's one that must take practice, and that's silence and meditation. Silence and meditation.
Oh, yeah.
Because a big part of up here, right, is going to be silence and being and meditation. This is the mind of correction. It's preparing you for level 3. So that means that you start correcting here. You don't correct here from here. You get to here, and now you do the correction and the detaching of here. When you have this completely detached, and remember, it's only thoughts. That's the sum total of what you're detaching from. You don't physically detach from anybody or physically give up anything. Definitely don't do that. That's called sacrifice. The ego loves it. It's like, give you an example how this works. Say you want to go on a diet. All right? To understand how these two minds works is this. Is one part of the mind is forcing the other part of the mind to do something. So the persona is forcing the body to lose weight. All right? Why? Because it wants a better image. It'll rationalize that as saying you need to get fitter. You need to have a better image. Because the persona is aligned for it. Simple as that. You know, these thoughts of reasons why we're doing things are really bullshit if you just really question them. You know, because you're being set up all the time. So now you have a part of your mind that's forcing the other part of the mind to do something. So that part of the mind will resist in the exact same velocity of the force. So the ego works on force and resistance. That's about persist and resist. So you have to nullify that. Okay? There is a way to lose weight. And it's not the Marianne Williamson way. Okay?
It's not what?
It's not the Marianne Williamson way.
It's the Michael Murray diet.
What's that?
It's the Michael Murray diet.
Stop reading.
Okay?
The Michael Murray diet. Stay away from Michael Murray.
So, really what this is about is silence and meditation will prepare you for the state of being here at mind. Now, the beauty about this, anybody could do this very quickly. And when you do get this to this point, and you have detached from this point, you wake up here, now you'll actually be a higher state of consciousness and Eckhart Tolle and Mooji put together. Why? Because you'll be able to be, and you'll be able to do. Yeah?
You do have.
Yeah. So, if you can take this now, this is level 2 thinking, this is the mind of the Holy Spirit, and you can start to apply this into situations, every situation in your life, you'll actually be thinking on level 2, you'll be in level 2 every time you're doing this. And you can go through this, and if you're having a problem, just go through this checklist and see what are you doing, what you're not doing. Right, there's 6 pages in this, and I'll email it because I have it detailed in here. So I didn't want to, again, with the environment, you know, trees and all of that. So anybody wants this, just email and I'll send it to you. It's a complete kind of more detailed account on this. I use this for people on the online classes. And basically this is how they're operating now in the world.
Sometimes I find talking to someone mind and I say, that's a wrong judgment, that was a judgment. And then my question is, where did that thought come from? But am I asking that question? I'm never quite sure what I'm asking that question.
But who's asking the question?
Well, I'd like to think the right mind thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, just the right mind. It's
Yeah.
not.
Yeah. But you also have to kind of look at how the right mind thinks, and the right mind would never think like that. The Holy Spirit knows the truth.
Yeah.
And never questions the truth. The persona hasn't got a clue about the truth and is always trying to get an understanding of it. The questioner, the problem solver is all the persona. You know, but you can use all of that. I mean, now you can do things with level 2 with the Holy Spirit rather than doing it with the ego. You can seek, now you're seeking to achieve this now on level 2 rather than seeking with the ego. You can basically take responsibility now rather than taking responsibility with the ego. Because all of these that we went through there, the persona can't do them. Because that basically is the end of the persona. You know, that's saying, I don't exist. And that's where you're trying to get to at the end of the day. So what's going to happen here, there's going to be a flip round here. You know, there's not going to be no big kind of fireworks going off. Do you know what I mean? Like, it'll just be a gradual wakening up, you know, and that's the way it's going to be for everybody, rather than, you know, like a dark night of the soul thing, like, you know.
You mentioned earlier about a mass awakening.
Yeah.
I mean, that's when it crossed my mind. When you look at the growth of the population in the world, in terms of, and then you look around, you're like, people at different levels, of lack of awareness. It's endless. Will it ever come to
Oh yeah, I mean, well, do you want to know when it's going to end?
You don't say.
Huh?
As soon as you wake up yourself.
I have the exact date.
Tell us.
Huh? Well, Jesus told us. You know, when he was here 2,000 years ago, he was here, he talked about being 40 days in the desert, wasn't he? Remember he talked about in the desert for 40 days? I haven't got the diagram with me, but I have a diagram on time. You remember it? So here, time was 1,000 years at this level, there's a year at this level, there's a day at this level, there's a second at this level, and there's no time here. So the more that your awareness, the more you begin to wake up, time collapses completely. So when Jesus was here, he was here at this level until the crucifixion, and he woke up into this level as Christ. But that was 40 days here, so 40 days here was 40,000 years here. We've been on the planet for 40,000 years attached to this
Holy
mindset.
Mother of God.
And we're going to be here for 44 days.
Sorry?
Another 4,000 years.
We're going to be here for 44 days in total. 44 days at this level.
All right.
44,000 days here. So that was 2,000 years ago.
So we have another 2,000 years.
Yeah. And a lot's going to happen. I mean,
Sorry, 10,000.
Sorry?
You say 10,000?
I said 2,000.
2,000.
So
2,000.
within 150 years, the world is going to be using this mind now. That's how quick the turnaround is going to happen. It's going to happen very, very quick. And the mass awakening is going to occur at this level, not at this level.
Okay.
Because
unless we reincarnate.
you see, what's going to happen now in the world is, you look at the banking, you look at government, you look at education, you look at everything, it's all at this level of consciousness, which is self-interest. In the next 100 years, we're moving into shared interest. Everything now, people are going to be moving into institutions, right? You know, and they're going to be changing those intuitions from the inside out. Okay, the church, the banking, the establishments, governments, and everything.
In a big.
Yeah. There's going to be a massive change around in the world. The dark, basically, in the spiritual universe, the earth has been known as the planet of fear, and that's coming to an end in the next 100 years.
Did someone say at the conference that it mightn't necessarily take 8,000 people, that it could easily just wipe out a lot of bodies, so there'd be less to actually let people to awaken?
Well, you look at it this way for a second. Hold on. Don't get caught up in the body form of spirit. I mean, go over and pick up a leaf. That leaf holds the same spirit and essence as you. You know, look up. Jesus says a grain of sand contains the kingdom of heaven. And many grains of sand are in this world. You see, I remember the first talk I did, I think it was your mate, asked me the question about where's all the new people coming out of?
I think it was I remember you saying,
so
you mentioned about trees and stuff. And that kind of shook me at the time. I said, geez, I never thought about trees.
I mean, everything here is Christ.
Yeah.
You know, look at it this way. When your body laid aside goes in and it goes back into dust again, and It's all energy that's just basically forming, dissolving, reforming into something else. That's all it is. I mean, everything here is you. Everything is here is you. There's nothing here that's not you. You know, and what form it takes is irrelevant.
Mr. Trump.
So you have new souls in the planet. That's where all these new people are coming out of. You know, is basically they're just energy now that have come up through, you know, consciousness, from self-consciousness, animal consciousness, you know, plant consciousness. I mean, you know, at the end of the day, don't get caught into, you know, it's going to take, you know, 8 billion people a long time to wake up or whatever. I mean, everything here is already awake at this level, and at this level. You know, so it's only that fragmentation that's coming all back into oneness, and that's where it occurs at this level.
The story of the universe.
Yeah.
That it all comes from the one thing that the people hands. Everything that is in the earth.
Perfectly.
The sun, you know, the sun was forming.
Yeah.
We are starters. Everything
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
from the solar nebula. Everything has been just keep fermenting and creating more elements.
Yeah.
But it all comes from the same.
You see this wire here? The moment the Big Bang happened, this wire here began. And it was the wire between matter and antimatter. Okay? And
Michael,
there
I know this is a big question asking you now, just as we're finishing. But I mean, from what you've experienced and from the information that you have, is there a simple answer to the question of why did it have to, why did that have to be the case about ego and this whole,
it's in my book.
is it okay?
Yeah, it's very
Can't wait to
detailed.
get home.
Very detailed in it.
Okay.
It's in the chapter of the separation. Did you know there were 4 versions of the separation? So read that, and that'll just answer that question for you. Okay.
You saw 4 versions in the law courts, all right?
Sorry?
You saw 4 versions of separation in the law courts.
Separation from
Yeah.
reality.
Yeah. So what this is, just to sum it up all my right. If you want new thinking, you're going to have to think differently than you think now. And you can't get it more easily now. You have something in front of you, a checklist that you can go through and say, right, I can sort out basically anything now. And even by you trying to do this, you're already at this level. You're not doing this with the ego.
By just being willing and
Just be willing to take responsibility. Even if you don't understand what a responsibility, even if you don't understand what you're saying is no to the ego. You know, you're saying there's, you know, like lesson 190 says, there's nothing external to you can hurt you, can make you sick, can cause you pain in any way. But still, the moment we feel pain, our first reaction is to project and find someone to blame. So even by you contemplating and thinking about doing this, you're saying no to the ego.
Michael, the reason you're placing Byron Katie, if you like, above Eckhart Tolle and Mooji, is you're saying that she is a doer, she can do things.
She's
they
showing
can't.
people to look at a problem differently
Yeah.
with the mind of truth rather than the
Practically.
mind of right or wrong. That's how simple she's doing.
Yeah.
Now,
What-
there's 10 elements in that. So imagine if we had teachers all around the world like Byron Katie, someone to teach, you know, responsibility, someone to teach acceptance, someone to teach what true empathy is, someone to teach basically complete forgiveness. I mean, look at Byron Katie, she's a star.
Yeah.
And she's only teaching one of those. Anybody in this room can say, right, I'm going to teach that. Anybody watching these videos at home can say, right, I'm going to be a Byron Katie, I'm going to teach that part. I can relate to that, I'm going to teach that. You know, that's
I'm
how
going to
easy
be a
all
Michael
this
Morris
is.
and teach it all.
You know, so, you know, at the end of the day, right, it's only a choice. And remember this, it's the most important line in the course. Heaven is a choice. This ain't going to happen without you choosing. You must make the first step on all the way home. When you get to here and you can stay here, everything after that's automatic. You don't have to do anything. Your only test is to get above this line and stay here. Correct your own interpretations of what you see here. That's it. After that, you don't have to worry about the thing. You're on automatic pilot. You're in God's hands, and God will use you exactly what's needed in this world. And there's no greater service than that. Thank you all.